need to turn this up?
We might need to turn these up a little bit. Okay, so for the public who are joining us now, I hereby can reconvene the open session of the Westborough Select Board hybrid meeting. This includes, first on our agenda, a joint meeting with the Planning Board. For all those present who are willing and able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. And so first item on our agenda is a joint meeting with the Planning Board. I will turn regarding the reporting structure and appointment structure of the town planner. I turn this over to Christy for the introduction.
Sure. So this is that?
It's working.
Oh, sorry. So this is a goal of the select board that you identified at your retreat this year. We haven't had a board discussion about it, but it has come up as a goal, something that we would look at. The previous charter commission did also look at this and in 2016, and they looked at actually the reporting structure for all town department heads and moved the majority of them from reporting to an appointed board or committee to reporting to the town manager. The proposal that's in front of you is for the town planner to move appointing authority from the planning board to the community development director. And this is really part of that effort of making a full community development department. So right now the community development department includes the conservation director, the building department, and then also the economic development coordinator. But the town planner, though, works closely with the community development director and all of those departments, is sort of outside of that department because of the appointing authority through the planning board. So we did a survey and looked at communities across Massachusetts. The results of the survey is that of the 304 towns in the state that have town planners, So we surveyed 304 towns in the state. 156 have a town planner. 25 have the planning board as an appointing authority for the town planner. 114 have the town manager as the appointing authority for the town planner. And 17 have a mix of hiring authorities. So the community development director, as an example, the town council, which would be like the select board here, or the select board. So the purpose of moving the position under the community development director would really be for that, as I said, the continued sort of consolidation of effort in terms of working with developers, working with businesses. And, I think it's really important as we have this discussion that we're talking about the position and the positions that this would be reporting to, as opposed to the people who are in those positions. Because this would really be a change in structure that would obviously outlast anyone who's sitting in those existing positions. So in order to do this, we would have to go to town meeting. It would require a charter change. And so that would obviously have to go through the legislative process. And it would also require a change, or actually I'm putting forward a change in how the community development director position is set up. Currently, the position is set up so that could it be the building commissioner? The community development director could also function as the building commissioner. We would expand that so that the community development director could function as the building commissioner or the town planner. So in the future, there would be promotional opportunity for a town planner into the community development director position. So I know that Ian and Shelby were both assigned the goal, and so you've met previously with the chair and vice chair of the planning board, just to sort of start the conversation, and that's where we decided to have this joint meeting, which we wanted to wait till after the October town meeting. But we're looking forward to this being on the annual town meeting warrant, and so we wanted to start the discussion this evening.
I have nothing to add. I think there's two.
Exactly.
Yep.
Okay.
open it to questions. I really have no
Open.
comments on it.
I would open to questions and comments and discussion. I think where we are today is, this is the first time we're discussing this as a select board, as a full select board. The planning board's here fully as well. So I think it's the start of the process, not the end of the process, as far as evaluating this change. So with that, I'll open up. Mark, you said you have comments, or?
Oh, I have.
I saw your hand go up.
I've had the advantage of, being part of the initial discussions on this outside of meetings, and, my general feeling on it is positive. I think it's a good change. I think that it is just the start of this, and we need to maybe fine-tune this concept a little, but I do think it's a positive change for the town. I don't necessarily know that I want to get into all the reasons why I think it has merit right now. I think I'd rather have a discussion with the planning board to try and come up with a recommendation on this, and come back and report to the select board on it. But I do have a lot of opinions on it as chairperson. So I'm going to let the rest of the board ask questions.
Hazel?
I have a couple things. This is something that I don't really feel informed about. I, quite frankly, was concerned I had to come tonight to talk about it. I was glad to hear what Christy said, but I feel very strongly that this is something the planning board needs to discuss among ourselves. I also would like to hear from former planning board members as to their feelings about it, or chairmans of that. I really feel before I can even have a sensible question to ask, I need time to think about this, and I have not had a chance to do that because it really is a new subject for me at this point. The other thing I just would kind of like to point out to everyone is we can all do these surveys. We can look at 300 towns, we can see what their things are. We have to remember we are an individual town, and what we're looking at is what's best for us, not what 45 other towns have done. So I think we really need to think hard about what direction we wish our town to go in. So I have a tendency, quite frankly, to discount all these surveys because I think I'm more interested in what goes on in our town and what the future of our town is. So I'd like to see this at this point on, at least on my behalf as far as the planning board goes, to come back to us and we have our own discussion about what the various options would be, what it means to us. I'd like to talk to our own planner or hear what he has to say, since the planning board as a whole, we have not heard that. I'd like to perhaps talk to other planning boards in other towns, find out how they work, and also, as I said, to former planning board members who I think really can give us the kind of feedback that we need, at least before I can really consider making any decision on this.
Okay, go ahead.
Christy, I'm aware that there was a consultant hired to do some organizational change, study of roles. So I'm aware of that activity preceding my time. I'm curious whether that work led to the creation of the Community Development Director Department in particular. And maybe I'll just let you answer that first, and then I'll come back to the planner position.
Yeah, so that's a good point, and more material to go back and look at. But the staffing study, the non-public safety staffing study that was completed in the spring of 2020, did recommend the creation of the Community Development Department, the director position, as well as the town planner appointing authority moving under the town manager. But what we're talking about here is going under the Community Development Director.
Okay, so maybe you answered the second part specifically. There was a recommendation to move the town planner and the building superintendent positions reporting to a community development director.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that work, consulting work, was based not on survey per se, but on what would serve the best structure for the town at this time, given its size and
right. Best
development
practices, I would say.
activity.
Yep.
Okay, good.
So, other things to consider as you're thinking about this change would be that the appointing authority would really remove sort of the hiring, firing, discipline work that really is right now the responsibility of the planning board. But it does not change the authority of the planning board, which is established under statute. It also doesn't change the staffing of the planning board by the town planner. So you see examples of that all over town, specifically with the conservation director, reports to the community development director on a day-to-day basis, but staffs the conservation commission. The recreation director is another example. The council on aging director, another example. Youth and family services is another example. So economic development, so routinely you see throughout the state and our own community, full-time staff reporting to other full-time staff on a day-to-day supervisory basis, but staffing a board or committee. So that wouldn't change. And right now, there's no authority for the community development director to pull in, and again, we're talking about the positions and not the people, but there's no authority for the community development director to pull in the town planner into sort of all of these discussions or meetings if they choose not to. And that's not happening right now, so it's hard for us to envision, but there's just no authority there.
But don't we have a problem at the moment in the fact that the building commissioner is the economic development person?
The building commissioner is the community development director.
Community development person.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
But he has a joint position at the moment.
Right. And that's why if we were to move the town planner under the community development director, we would also want to adjust that position so that in the future, a town planner could be the community development director. Right now, that wouldn't work because the community development director reports to the town manager and the town planner reports to the planning board.
So just a follow-up question on the less the hiring and firing and contract negotiation and more the goal setting and performance review. Where does that authority rest right now, and where would it rest? The actual, annual performance reviews, goal setting, and that sort of thing.
Right, that's one of the things that I have an issue with. Currently the chairperson does the annual review of the town planner. I sign timesheets. I do monitor attendance. I think those type of ministerial duties. I guess administrative duties should belong with a staff member and not with a citizen volunteer. I don't think that is really appropriate. I would like to go back to something you said, and I'm not clear on. As far as hiring and firing, I think it would be important that the planning board have some type of concurrence with hiring.
So that does. So I'll just go back and answer your question,
Yeah, 'cause I
Tim.
haven't got my question
So
answered
currently, goal setting, review, all of that is the responsibility of the planning board. Certainly, right now, Jim and I have a good relationship and so, he certainly is part of our team. So again, talking about the positions, but if it were to move under the community development director, then they would do goal setting. The community development director would do the goal setting and the review. Any sort of discipline or corrective action would happen under the community development director.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, the planning board could still put forward goals for the board, and it would be the responsibility of the town planner to make sure that those goals are moving forward. An example of that is, what we're doing right now tonight. So the select board has created their own goals, and it's my responsibility to help them move those goals forward.
Yeah.
Ian?
Yeah, I was just going to go on the point that when we met as a smaller group, that was kind of one of the recommendations this moves forward, is that it really should be in a hiring practice. At least I would recommend that that the planning board has concurrence, similar to what we have on our side in certain positions, that the select board has concurrence on the town manager's appointments. I think it absolutely makes sense that if it were to move in this direction, that the hiring would happen in concurrence with the planning board. So you would still be heavily involved in the process, as you should be, because the planning board and town planner, as Chrissy just said, kind of work in conjunction and whatever. The way I view it, it really is very similar to what we did, in a number of positions that were brought up. Council on Aging was one where the senior center director was kind of reported to the Council on Aging, and they were like, well, we don't know if we're in the right position. We don't know all the rules of municipal law, and what are we supposed to do if, do we do for performance reviews? What do we do if we have a disciplinary action? What do we do if, someone doesn't show up? Are we supposed to monitor vacation time? I mean, all these types of things that were, as you said, administrative in nature. And it made sense to let them focus on policy and move it into kind of this, what I call more of a professional alignment. So I think, Hazel, your thing, this is not something we want to do, because we should make sure that if we want to move forward with this, all the questions are asked. You guys have discussed it, because these are the questions we're going to get at town meeting, and this has to go in front of town meeting. And if there's any questions that we don't have answered, I think we all know that this would never pass at town meeting. They're going to look for that. So I think having that vetted and talked about here and taking it back in the start of a process here is important for us to do. I think it's the right move personally, but it's really more important for the five of you on the planning board to talk this out and talk about it. Absolutely talk with Jim. Jim was part of our discussions we had there, but I think I'm not going to speak for Jim. You guys should have those conversations.
So an example of a board that has concurrence is, I believe it's the Youth Commission. So when we hired our current Youth and Family Services Director, a member of the Youth Commission sat in on the hiring process. And then once we appointed, it had to go to the Youth Commission to vote their concurrence. And so that, that's also an option for this position.
And I guess I do want to emphasize that we're raising this discussion and starting this discussion now, in part because we don't have a problem, right? The current people in the current positions work well together. It's a unified team. There's cooperation. And it's easier to take a step back and look long-term when things are working well, as opposed to waiting until there is a conflict and we're trying to solve a problem and deal with that. I think starting the discussion now, in fact, takes the personalities and any politics out of the discussion, and it's really about what is the best, most effective structure for town governance and for the roles of the elected boards versus hired professional staff in the town. And so that's sort of the motivation for looking at this issue. We'll be looking at a few others, but at this point in time, starting it now and sort of help set that context. Peter or James?
Yeah, thanks, Alan. I would echo a lot of the comments. My first reaction from our initial meeting and thoughts of this since is favorable. But I think Hazel's comments about us having further discussion, getting input from people that served in these different roles is a valuable use. I like the coordination. I think that the planning board or the chair being in this role of disciplinary person and an admin for all this, I don't think it makes much sense. I think there's a process there in the town, and I think that makes a lot more sense. And I'm intrigued, having served in economic development and in this role, that whole group working together to forward the interests of the town, I think is terrific. So that's my initial thought, but I agree with Hazel that we have some work to do to get feedback from folks that have served along the way as to their thoughts, and to have a deeper discussion amongst ourselves.
I agree with Jim and Hazel as well. It's just I need to hear the feedback to really be able to, form an opinion on this, see what the best approach here is. So I agree. I appreciate Hazel's feedback, and I fully support Hazel.
Okay. Sean or Shelby? Any
I mean, I'll
additional
just,
comments?
I think it's critically important that the planning board has its discussion, so it certainly was not intended to be, I mean, this is what I anticipated the conversation to be, and I think it would be a significant change for the town, and it has to be thoughtfully done with, several rounds of discussion. Because I think there are lots of nuances of, beyond just what's, in a survey, and how does it really work? So, absolutely.
Yeah, Ellen, I would just say, I think this was good to get the ball rolling, and I look forward to watching the planning board's discussion on this topic to sort of hear what they have to say about this and see where it moves forward. Certainly, without their, sort of thoughts and conversations on this, it just isn't going to move forward, so looking forward to it. Thank you.
Patrick?
I'll just, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'll just mention that I was reluctant to this change initially, and through discussions I've had with Christy, I think the important piece of this is the concurrence piece, and making sure that understanding is well understood between the planning board and the community development position. I'll also just quickly mention that, when I read the staffing study, fantastic body of work, but one of the things that I didn't see in there in my last read is that the historical perspective of why the town government was set up the way it was, and the autonomy that the town planner gets in regards to being under the planning board as opposed to under the department itself. But again, after having conversations with Christy and understanding the intent of this and more of the nuances of the structure that would be set up, right now I think that this is really modernizing this position into a more modern, more efficient mechanism or structure by which this position can work and be more efficient with the rest of the town government. So, but I do also, like others have said, I do look forward to hearing how the planning board discusses this and other information that might come to light throughout those discussions. So, thank you.
Okay, Ian?
Yeah, just one thing, again, to kind of thoughts for consideration. Thinking of the role and potential issues or occurrences down the road, just something to think about is because it's reporting into a public body, when we talk about disciplinary action, because of open meeting law and whatever, I believe, and looking to Christy or Kim to confirm that if you were having discussions like that, it has to go through a process, and it can't be, for example, the chair doing it like you do in a business world of, or if it was in the town. Once it reports to the board, we're subject to open meeting laws, you guys subject to open meeting laws, and those types of discussions and whatever would have to be in open meetings. I think the good part is that we've had such a good town planner, and we don't have those issues, but again, taking, individuals out of this and thinking about the role and thinking about, where it could be long-term, you see, where you might have complications or potential complications based on a kind of an elected board and how you need to go about processes in terms of managing. And it could be minor things, but it's really that piece of making sure you don't violate open meeting law for, reviews or just, sitting somebody down and saying, hey, what are you doing? Let's, those are things that you just have to be very careful with, to make sure you don't violate open meeting law when you have boards and kind of the appointing authority and reporting roles.
Mark?
So I want to focus a little bit less on the disciplinary. I'm more excited about the opportunities. I think it's really important to at least consider hiring from within. I like the idea that we can maybe groom somebody to, Fred's getting up there. He's, we're gonna,
Nothing personal, Fred.
No, seriously though, and I actually like the idea of having a community development director with a planning background. And again, no offense, Fred, but I think that would be one of the benefits of this change would be that we could have an opportunity for advancement within that department, whereas currently now the town planner is really at a dead end in town. That's, again, no offense, but I guess there's really no place for them to go other than maybe another town. And we don't want somebody good leaving because there's no room for them to advance, so.
So is the planning board willing to take this on as a discussion topic, and
Yeah, we can
we
put
would
it on
reconvene as a
a,
joint board a couple meetings out?
sure. I think that's, I don't think we need to vote on that. I think we'll put it on our,
I'm seeing thumbs up from the remote people.
I was just wondering if we wanted to hear from either the current
Mark.
town planner or the community development director, or,
Just before we leave that, in terms of process,
yeah.
we're aiming for, ideally, something on town meeting warrant in the spring. That was inferred but not set out outright. So that means, for those newer of us on this process, that needs to be done end of January, or?
Really end of February, right?
Yeah. Yes, we typically close the warrant the first meeting in February.
Okay. In terms of background that we might review, the staffing study is not public record, I wouldn't imagine, is
The
it?
staffing study is public record, so I
Okay.
can send the link to Mark and Jim, and they can
Okay.
distribute it.
That would be
But
good,
it is
just-
also on the website, so.
I'd just like to look at the section
Yeah.
with regard to that town planner position. Last comment I'll make is I've been on the planning board now for 18 months. Until tonight, I wasn't aware that we had the review and goal-setting responsibility. So I would just argue that it's not a staff position. This is a professional position. It seems to me it's really important that professional report to another employed professional who's accountable to the town for their strategic review and their performance review with the input of the planning board on both the review and the goal setting. But the rigor with which that needs to happen, I would argue, is so important that it shouldn't be a floating kind of responsibility with anytime you have an individual reporting to multiple people. You probably don't have a real clean professional environment, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sorry, Christine.
Sorry, Christy.
So, any additional comments, or are we?
Yeah, again, I
Good
just
for this evening.
wasn't sure if we wanted to hear comments from
No.
either Jim or
I don't know,
Fred.
quite frankly, I'd like to wait. I mean, I think that at this point, I would like to see them come to the planning board and talk to them then. I don't think I have no reason to listen to them tonight, because I really like to think about this, because I don't have any questions that I can raise until I know more about it. So I would like to wait.
Yeah, again, I'm not trying to put them on the spot, I just don't know if they want to comment. So, again, I don't want somebody leaving the meeting tonight saying, well, they never they never turned to me for my opinion. I mean, I think that's important to me, because I value both of their opinions. So that's really the only point I'm trying to make. I think if they want to say something, they should have the opportunity. But I'm not trying to put anyone on the spot.
With the expectation that you would still meet with the planning board in the future to answer questions and discuss this in more detail. If either of you wanted to say something this evening, you're welcome to. If not, that's perfectly fine as well.
We can quickly, if you like.
Sure.
So I will admit that I've had the pleasure of being in this position for almost a year now. I didn't realize how much I love it, and I do, which is an aside to everything. I find that, and you can certainly talk to the Conservation Commission members, they had the same concerns when the reporting authority came from the conservation agent actually would come under the community development director. They had the exact same questions and concerns about would I influence that position, or would this position influence that. I would safely assume that they would tell you that, no, I don't think I've exerted any kind of influence over that committee. Same way with the Economic Development Committee. I think what we've gained for town is the synergy from those two departments, the Economic Development Department and Conservation, that we have communication, if not daily, certainly weekly, and sometimes daily with those different departments. So this synergy has worked out really well. like I said, I love the position. I didn't realize how much I'd like it, to be honest with you. So it's worked out well personally for me. That's all I'll say now, and I'd be happy to attend a planning board meeting to discuss it further.
Okay. Thank you.
So we'll put this on our next agenda. We'll start gathering questions. Just, again, I look at this as chapter 1. We have a whole book to write.
Right.
And, I don't know where that plot is going yet, but we're going to certainly explore it as much as we can. So,
Okay. Thank you very much. Would you like to?
I will make a
Adjourn.
motion to adjourn the planning board meeting of November 23rd.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? We don't need a roll call, but so, do we need a roll
Yes.
call because they're remote?
Yes.
All right, my mistake. All right, Pete Bouchard,
Yes,
Jim Ball,
Yes, Mark?
Hazel Nurse,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
and I vote yes. It's 5-0 for the planning board to adjourn.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for
Thanks.
joining and
Good night,
this
everyone.
meeting.
Have a great
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Bye.
We are a little bit ahead of schedule. So do we want to do,
Plus Sarah here if you want
Sarah's saying she's ready to go early.
to. Yeah.
So if we could jump to number 7 on the agenda, a letter of support for Safe Routes to School grant. Oh, no, thanks.
Hi. Hi. This work?
You can pull closer.
Okay. Better? Okay.
Perfect.
Thanks. That's why I came down early, hoping this would happen. Hold on, now I can't read my paper. So I'm here to ask for a letter of support for our grant application to Safe Routes to School. As you guys know, the Massachusetts Safe Routes to School program works to increase biking and walking among elementary and middle school students by using a community-focused approach balancing health and transportation. Over the last 5 years, all of the Westborough K-8 schools have aligned with the program, participating in annual walk-to-school days, conducting a walk and bike assessment, utilizing their education materials, address mapping services, and attending their virtual webinars and workshops. Safe Routes to School initiatives are incorporated into the school's 5-year strategic plan, our town master plan, and the climate action plan. So currently, Safe Routes to School has an infrastructure funding grant open until December 1st for $200,000 up to about $1.5 million projects that seek to improve safety, access, and mobility for students in grades K-8 and to encourage more students to walk and bike to school. The project must have K-8 students as the primary beneficiaries, be located within 2 miles of a K-8 school, be within a public way, and must be ADA acceptable. Funding for design and construction are included with no municipal matching required. This is a long-term grant, so if accepted, planning wouldn't even begin until 2023, which the work might not even be completed by 2025. So with the town DPW as the primary applicant, and the school's buildings and grounds department would be the co-applicant, the proposed project to submit would be Fisher and West Street. So that would be sidewalks, curbing, crosswalks, and signage along Fisher Street from Otis Street to West Street, and then crosswalks and signage, pedestrian signage on West Street at Grant Road. So it's primarily on town property. It requires a cost estimate from the DPW for majority of the sidewalk, curbing work, signage, and the crosswalk painting. The grant would include sidewalks, curbing improvements, ADA compliant curbs and ramps, traffic calming and speed reduction improvements, those ladder style painted pedestrian bicycle crossings, and secure bicycle parking facilities at both schools. Components of this work are included in the town's complete streets plan, including the ADA ramps, curbing, and crosswalks at the Assabet Fisher Street intersection, and there's a general item on there for school zone safety improvements, replacing some of the aging school zone signs with solar-powered flashing beacons and those radar speed feedback displays. So the goal is to encourage more students to walk and bike to school by making these needed safety improvements and adding these traffic calming measures. And in your meeting packet is more information and photos of the proposed plan. And thank you for your time and consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
open the floor to any questions from the board.
I'll just, if I may.
Yep.
So as liaison to the Active Transportation Safety Committee, I have had a chance to speak with the chair, talk about this project specifically, have heard their discussions as a body, and I'm in support of us supporting this letter. Great work.
And I think they may have come down, except I jumped ahead, so I'll tell them
Okay.
that they might not need to be here
Sean?
anymore.
Yeah, this seems pretty easy to support. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions?
Yeah, I think this is something we've talked about for a while. I think I'm excited for it. I think it's great. It's a grand opportunity, no town matching. I think where you're looking for is important spaces, especially on Fisher Street. And I think it's in our best interest, as you said, in many plans, but to encourage students and their parents to allow the kids to walk and bike to school. But this helps us ensure that we can do it in a safe manner as well. So I'm fully supportive of us sending a letter of support for this.
Okay, and I would just add that I'm glad to see that this extends all the way to Otis Street, because it connects to neighborhoods there. We've got the Assabet Drive neighborhood that's pretty isolated. It'll extend to Fisher, it'll give access to Fisher Street beyond Otis Street, and with evolving plans for the Otis Street corridor, that the sidewalks eventually would continue up Otis Street, and when, not if, when, Route 9 Otis Street gets rebuilt, we'd have a crosswalk there to arrive. And so I think this is a component of a larger plan, and larger capabilities for improving student and community access to the schools in that part of town. Patrick?
Yeah, I'll just, many of my comments have already been made. I fully support this. I think it's an excellent opportunity. It just makes a lot of sense. So Sarah, thank you very much for the work that you and the team have done on this. I guess I just had one quick question in your letter to the board. I noticed you mentioned Project One. Are there other projects that you're also looking at? I'm not sure if you said that. I might have missed it. Or is this just a one-time?
No, I'm glad you brought that up. Project One was kind of a cool idea, but then when I talked to Chris Payant and got the DPW more involved, this project on Fisher and West Street made more sense in that it aligned with complete streets and sidewalk plans and things that like Alan mentioned, Otis Street. So it seemed more logical, but Project One was creating a bike path from, I don't have the map, but if you look at the back of Gibbons where like the softball and soccer fields are, to Whitney Street. If there was a proper path, many students do cut that way, and that would actually alleviate some of the students that pour out through Armstrong School onto West Street. So if we put a proper path there, where it could be plowed in the winter, and the kids, shoes wouldn't get all messy and all that kind of stuff when they walk through there, we encourage more kids to go that way, to go downtown and things like that after school. So that is definitely an idea that we had that now can be brought to the forefront also, but we felt like this one really felt more applicable to this grant opportunity. And that's why I've been working with Safe Routes to School for when these grant opportunities come up. So now we have another idea for our next one.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion, which also needs to authorize me to sign the letter.
Yeah, I move to send a letter of support for the Safe Routes to School grant application. And authorize the chair to sign the letter on behalf of the board.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any further questions or comments?
I would just like to thank DPW and the schools, just this collaborative effort. I think anytime we see that, it's good for the town. So thank you, and thanks to Chris and his team.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, roll call vote. Patrick?
Welch, yes.
Ian?
Johnson, yes.
Marshall, yes.
Keo, yes.
Edinburgh, yes. It passes 5-0, 5 being present. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thanks for taking me
Thanks,
early.
Have a
Appreciate
good
that.
evening.
Sir,
Happy
great job.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
And happy Thanksgiving. Yes, we have to say that
Keep
to
saying that
everyone.
multiple times.
Okay, it's 6:50, so we're back on track for agenda item number 3, which is open forum. We have no one who's, we have someone, I was gonna say, we have no one online.
Go back and
first.
sit down, you're not here.
But if there's anyone in the audience who'd like to speak, please raise your hand. There we go, okay. So please introduce yourself and thank you for coming.
Hi, I'm Jen Kirkland. I'm the Recreation Director. I'm just here before you tonight to inform you and the public that this Sunday we're bringing back the winter stroll after a year off. So we're really excited about that. So the event will take place Sunday, November 28th. It starts at 2 o'clock. Our economic developer, Zach, has done a phenomenal job and has gotten over 40 businesses to participate. So all of the businesses that are listed on the business list that can be found on the Westborough Rec website or on Facebook will all be open, offering different types of activities, discounts, things like that. So that portion of the event is from 2 to 5. And then following that at 6 o'clock, we'll have the light parade down West Main Street, leading into the Rotary Club's winter lights and visits with Santa. So it's always a great day. So we just hope people come out, support the businesses, support the light parade, and yeah, it'll be a good time. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Exciting.
Thank you very much. It is exciting, and kudos to the Rec Department, Economic Development. I know the Spirit Committee's been helping out a bit to pull this all together and make it, bigger and better. So
And
it's
thank you
good.
to those businesses. I mean,
And the businesses
over 40
too, that's
businesses,
great.
that's phenomenal, so.
Really help continue to make our downtown a great attraction. Okay, is there anyone else here for open forum? Okay, then we will continue to move forward. So next on our agenda is Senator Michael Moore. Please come forward for, I'll ask you to introduce yourself in a second, but as people know, with the completion of the 2020 census, there's a normal process of redistricting. At the state level, Westborough will now be moving into, it's the second Worcester district, where Michael Moore is currently the state senator. So he, as this change takes place next year, will be our representative on the Senate side of the State House. So welcome.
Thank you very much for letting me come tonight to introduce myself. I think you're going to see a lot of changes in the town of Westborough as far as your representation goes. Senator Eldridge will be departing a year from January after the next election cycle, and I think you're going to be getting a one state representative now instead of 3. So two. All right, you'll have Representative Hannah Kane,
Representative Kane will stay in one
and then
of
the
our
new
precincts and
open seat.
the new one. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to come out, introduce myself, talk to you about any issues that you may have or you think that I may be of assistance with you. But I am not, just to be clear, I'm not, this is still represented by Senator Eldridge. So whatever work I do, I would have to work out with him the details and how we would support, or how I would support you in that endeavor. But I am here to take any feedback, or you can tell me any issues that you have going on, or if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Okay.
No, welcome. And
Welcome.
I think
Right,
we've known
thank
you, we've seen you where we've shared, some overlap too with Shrewsbury and with our Representative Kane and that, so have been able to meet with you and talk with you before, but it's changes happen, but we'll miss Senator Eldridge, but look forward to having you come on board as well in the change. I don't know that I was prepared for things that we're working on.
Well, I guess, so I was elected in 2008, sworn in 2009, and my staff always tells me not to tell this story, but I always do. Literally, if you remember, that was when we had the Great Recession. So I had the pleasure of putting my hand up, getting sworn in, and literally 5 minutes later, we had to cut $1 billion from the state budget. Thank God those days are over. We got a little concerned about a year ago when the pandemic first hit, and we thought we'd be having a $6 or $7 billion deficit. But as you know, at the end of last fiscal year, we turned out we had about a $1.5 billion. I hate to say surplus, because it's really, there's so many needs out there, there really isn't a surplus. But so we had the surplus, and last week the Senate passed its version of the state opera funding. It then went to the House, and they're still in conference committee, so we haven't seen that come out yet. It's about $3.7 billion in funding. Right now, if the revenue estimates stay as they are for this fiscal year, we will have an even larger surplus at the end of this fiscal year than we had this past year. So we did about roughly $3.7 billion, which was $2.5 billion of the $5 billion that we had from the federal government. So we have another $2.5 that we will be distributing or dispersing sometime next year. So at that point, when you hear that going, that we're going to be moving on that legislation, please reach out to me so we can be of assistance and we can work with Senator Eldridge. And we will also be, obviously, if we have a surplus, then we would most likely be combining those two with the surplus. Now, added issue is with what was just passed in Washington for the infrastructure bill. Massachusetts is slated to get about $8 or $9 billion to us, and then another $3 or $4 billion as part of that, but for separate programming. So we've yet to see a complete breakdown, and we don't know, at least on our level yet, what restrictions there are. I think if you remember when President Obama was in office and they did the federal relief, a lot of that money came through Title IX or different earmarks or line items that we had to stay within the certain parameters of. So we don't have that breakdown yet. So again, I would just any major infrastructure you have, I just make a list and keep track, and then if you see that moving forward, let us know.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I think we're undergoing a number of things going on right now, some that are already approved, like the Route 9, 495 Maspec interchange. But I do think one of the things that you probably know about is the development that we have going on in our business community out on Otis Street. We just opened the Amazon Robotics facility out there, and a number of other development projects that are in planning or beginning stages that are part of what our planning board had with that was a corridor study for that Otis Street Route 9 intersection. And especially that intersection is one that is, we have numerous accidents there. We have a large apartment complex with Westborough residents, the old Fountainhead, now called Arrive Westborough, that we would love to give them safe access to the other side of Route 9. Right now we have them crossing where there's no crosswalk. It's really an unsafe intersection. It's something that's kind of been on our list. We've talked to our representatives and Senator Eldridge. We've talked to the Lieutenant Governor on this, but it is something that is important for us, for that area, both for the businesses and also for our residents that live in that community. So I think that's a infrastructure project that is, high on our list of things to do.
Is there roughly a cost estimate right now for that project?
A lot.
Well, just so actually, Alan called me, reached out to me during the week, and we spoke, and he did fill me in on that project. And actually, I was on the way home this afternoon. I had to pick my daughter up at college today, so we were going by Arrive, and I think it's going to be a lot of redesigning, looking at the amount of traffic going over there to facilitate pedestrian traffic to come across. So, but yeah.
Bridges, tunnels,
Yeah.
subways, I don't know.
Well, the corridor study had a proposed concept design, I would say. I don't want to say it was a design, it was an idea of what could be done there, as far as even splitting the Route 9 crossing into two with a safe space and a wide enough protected median for people who can't make it across in one light signal. So I think there are a lot of options there.
Do you know, have they looked at a footbridge to walk over it, or?
I don't know.
What I hear is those, I think there's been a lot of talk, but I hear that those aren't overly popular.
Right.
Oh, okay.
But
Right.
a lot of people have said, why not, a
footbridge,
raised
right.
footbridge? So I don't know.
Okay.
They have
But
them
it
in
is-
Framingham, right? And certainly in Boston, so.
Yeah.
And movement on, I think, is important, not just for the continued development of our commercial industrial base in that corridor, which is part of our master plan and part of our zoning. As further development of that will help have our commercial industrial tax base pay a larger percentage of the levy, which provides relief to homeowners. But I think it's also important because it mitigates concerns of the neighborhoods. And there's no direct neighborhood on Otis Street, but roads off of Otis Street do provide cut-throughs to other communities. And there's obviously concern by those residents with traffic and speed and potential trucks and things of that nature. So fixing fixing that Otis Route 9, intersection, puts in a traffic plan or enables a traffic plan that we can mitigate the neighborhood concerns. And
Now,
allow,
isn't there a corporation thinking about moving in there?
pardon?
Isn't there a company thinking about relocating the headquarters there?
So Amazon Robotics.
Amazon, okay.
Has opened their facility, which is their, they do everything there from advanced artificial intelligence research and design in a lab that they won't show anyone, all the way down to the manufacturing, shipping, and maintenance of the robots that they use in their warehouses.
Okay.
And they've got, the current facility, I believe, is what, 300 and, well, Fred's gone, but I think it's 320,000+ square feet
Okay.
of workspace. There's an office building. They are also looking to build a model delivery center. There's like a pilot experimental facility further north on the property, so.
Where it's the robotic division in there, I guess, developing the next line of robots or future.
So this is-
What is the total creation of jobs, job creation coming at the facility?
So currently, if I remember from the tour, there are over
250?
250 full-time
Okay.
jobs now. That range from graduates of area vocational schools
Okay.
all the way up to, people with multiple PhDs and researchers.
Okay.
They expect the current facility to expand as they bring in new projects and programs, to expand to, I believe, around 400,
Okay.
which is still fewer than the number of employees when it was AstraZeneca, but it'll populate that facility well.
So is Arrive being moved, or it's going to stay in existence?
No,
Yeah, yeah,
Arrive
no, it's-
stays there.
yeah.
This is on the other side of Route 9.
Arrives
Okay.
on the north
Up
side of
Otis
Route 9.
Street.
Yeah.
We can
It's,
arrange a tour.
It's right near the train station. It's another key
The
Oh,
Reds,
okay,
location for it.
okay.
So it's-
Barbarian Farms, you might be familiar with that, the old Reds Farm and AstraZeneca's, those properties that we're talking about.
Yes, okay.
Is
So
where-
actually, the train station
Yep.
is more of a.
Yes.
Right.
yeah. So, thank you.
The other,
There's going to be a brew pub out there, too. So
Yes,
that's
right.
That's going to the planning board approval as well.
Yeah.
So just so you know, I actually served I'm from Millbury. I served on the Board of Selectmen there for 8 years before being elected to the Senate, so I have a pretty good grasp of the issues that boards of selectmen have to deal with. So I think you find me a pretty strong advocate for seeking local input and local control on a lot of issues. I understand there may be sometimes that we may have to pass legislation that affects the cities and towns, but I will be actively seeking your input on whether you support those initiatives or not. Because I know how, being on the board, I know how it is to have something passed in Boston, and then you've got to react to try to adjust your
Thank you.
operations.
Thank you.
So,
Shelby, you had?
no, I mean, I think that there's plenty of time for conversation. I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming before us tonight. Westborough is an active, dynamic town. You've got a lot of those under your charge, and we look forward to working with you. So thank you.
And likewise. So just so you know, the new district will be the towns of Auburn, Millbury, Grafton, Shrewsbury, Westborough, and about 35-40% in the city of Worcester. So, and in this capacity right now, I do work with Representative Kane, and she's an excellent colleague to work with. So you will have good cooperation between the two branches. So
Great.
is there anything else you think I'm forgetting, or that you'd like to talk to me about?
I think this is a good start. There's a lot to, I mean, we could go over all of the initiatives that the town has and all the issues we have with the state, but we don't have enough time for that this evening. We have a year or so.
And if there's anything that comes up that you think I need to know, just reach out to my office. I'll be more than happy to stop out here and meet with you.
And it is nice, I know that you've started attending events in town.
Yes. Yep.
And to get to know the community, and that's very much appreciated, and we,
Thank you. And I hear you have this Sunday is a big day?
big day.
What's it called? You
Holiday
have your tree
stroll.
light.
Holiday stroll and tree lighting.
Yes.
So all downtown, but I think, when it's coming in, there's over 40 businesses in town that have partnered with our Economic Development Coordinator, Recreation Department to really put on the events, and whether it's arts and crafts, whether it's free hot cider, whether it's discounts, it's really a way for us to kind of bring the community together, work with the businesses in town as well. So it's really an exciting event. We have a light parade
Okay.
If you want to light up your car.
I guess, yeah, right now I deal with about 4 chambers of commerce. Does Westborough have its own town chamber?
We do not.
You're just part of
We're
Corridor 9?
Corridor
Okay.
9, 495
Yep.
chamber. They keep expanding and extending their
Right,
name. So we've got a good working relationship with the leadership team
Okay, good.
there as well.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
for
very
coming.
much for coming.
Thank you very
Happy
much.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
You gonna say that
I don't know,
I
is-
might,
I don't know,
I
can you approach the, I don't know.
Sure.
Yes, you can.
Nice to meet you.
Great to see you. Yeah, you
Virtually, I'll say, nice to meet you.
Oh, yeah.
Another board member.
Patrick on the big screen. So,
And he's calling in from Hawaii, so
Oz.
geez, come
Yeah,
on.
don't feel bad for
Don't
him.
feel bad for it.
Successfully have a remote meeting.
That's
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
right?
Well, very nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
is it possible to get our monitor back on?
Yeah, it timed
Shut
out,
off.
it
It
seemed.
timed out. The TV did.
There was a little thing that said,
Someone has to hit the
yep,
power.
he's coming.
Oh, here he comes.
Thank you. Thanks, Aiden.
Oh, it's flashing. It'll come back on. Awesome. Okay, give us a better view of Patrick.
Although that's pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah. Larger than life. Okay, we are still running
That's
a
not good.
little bit ahead of schedule, but I see it appears, is everyone here from the Explorer Post? Are you ready, or should we? Ready? So why don't you come forward for your presentation? As people may know, one of the nonprofit organizations in town, they are affiliated with the Mayflower Council of the Boy Scouts of America, is Explorer Post 85. And we as a town occasionally get questions about who they are and what they do. And this fall, they launched a new program in partnership with the Westborough Fire Department. And so I thought it'd be good to invite them here to present a little bit about the program, inform us, and inform the community. So welcome, gentlemen. Please step forward. You get to speak into the mic, because in addition to us here, we've got the public watching at home.
No pressure.
No pressure. And so I'll just please introduce yourselves, and the floor is yours.
All right, so my name is Adam Harris, and this is...
I'm Tristan Bond.
And tonight we'll be representing Post 85, the Westborough Fire Department. We feel that this is a very good program, and we're very lucky to be a part of it. We had a presentation tonight.
She's going to pull it up.
Oh, okay,
She'll
awesome.
pull it up and put it on the screen, so.
There's about 9 members in our program.
Okay, hold on just a sec, Will. So this is when we have to do the pledge drive announcement or something? For Westborough TV. There we go. There we go.
All right, so some of the people that lead our program on the post side are Dana Hagenson, Rob Lane right here, Brett Borgland, and Linda Borgland, his wife. And some of the gentlemen over at the fire department, we have Lieutenant Roger Busha, Lieutenant Chris Dubois, firefighter Corey Anderson, Taylor Blair, Zach Glidden, and Greg Doucette. And all those gentlemen are awesome. And they really help make a good experience for us over at the Explorer Post meetings.
Yeah, it really is a great community there. So the program that we're in is very education based. It's very heavy. We have a lot of we have like hour-and-a-half classes every Tuesday, and then one Saturday a month, and that's usually from 7 o'clock in the morning. No, sorry, is it 8:30 to
4:30.
4:30, yeah. And a few things that we've learned: we got a CPR, first aid, and AED training. We had a lesson on hydraulics. We learned how to properly use a SCBA, which is a self-contained breathing apparatus. We had the apparatus orientation, which is we had to learn the difference between the fire trucks and the tanker trucks and stuff. We learned Robert's Rule of Order, and that's how we run our meetings. and we learned PPE and different types of equipment that they use to protect themselves. We had a lesson on the history of the fire services. We had fire tool familiarization. We learned a lot of good interviewing skills, teamwork skills, and leadership skills that will benefit us greatly outside of this program and inside of it.
Thank you. So some of the important key things that we've learned and how this can help us is it gives us real-world resources that we can use in the real world, such as those CPR trainings. Those can really come in handy in the real world if there was some sort of medical emergency. It can help kickstart our firefighting career. I can speak for myself and Adam that we both want to be firefighters one day, and kind of kickstarting by learning some cool things that they do on a day-to-day basis is a really interesting thing that I find. We have the CPR and AED trainings that can help us, in a dangerous situation that might be helpful to us. It gives us a higher education of what some of the things that the fire service do and what we do inside the fire service and being a firefighter one day. And it puts us ahead of other people who want to be in the fire service one day. Us already knowing some of that material can really help us get an idea of if this is something for us or not. And so that's some really good things that we've learned, and I've really enjoyed the program so far.
Me too. So as we close the presentation, I want to thank everyone for their time and interest in our program. We hope this is educational and informative about our program and what it means to us. I'm glad to have this program in my life because I think that it's also providing a lot of structure and it's helping me really plan out with what I want to do for the future. I'm sure just some
Definitely. Appreciate you guys having us out here. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Do any members of the board have any questions?
So what is Robert's Rule of Order?
Well, Robert's Rule of Order is a method to run a meeting. So
kind of structures every meeting we have that's from 6:30 to 7 o'clock with the post 85 before the fire department training, and it just kind of structures our meeting and what we do and how we record everything down on we have a book and we record the minutes every time, and we have to go through the same processes as a lot of different meetings such as town hall meetings and stuff like that, where we go through and we vote for everything we do and stuff like that.
Yeah, we have a president, treasurer, I'm the president and he's a treasurer, and then we have a vice president and a secretary.
Yeah, so we have 4 different executive members, officers that kind of lead their different roles in the meeting. Then we have all the general members as well.
That's excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joey?
So how can other individuals who are seeing this presentation or hear about the post, how can they get involved? How might they sign up or understand a little bit more about what you do? And do they attend a meeting? Do they have to interview? What's that process?
Yeah, so this year we've already kind of started our meeting, but for next year, people can get a flyer through the fire department, through the post, I believe. And so we start on the first meeting. There's more of a, not sort of like an interview, but like a...
it's like a practice interview, just so they
with
can
the fire
learn
department to
what
kind
the goals are of what you want to get out of the program. It's like a mock interview, and we had a panel of firefighters, and we talked to them, and they asked us questions, and we answered and stuff. They weren't going to not kick us out of the program or something, but just to get us used to what it might be like in the future.
Yeah, so there's an application, and there's the first day gives us a lot of breakdown of what we'll do in the program and stuff like that.
Sure. Okay. So, Rob Lane, I'm one of the advisors to the Explorer Post. I'm just going to add on to that response. We do accept members throughout the year. If folks are interested, they can visit our website, www.explorerpost85.com. And they can send an email. There's a link on there to info@explorerpost85.com, and they can join that program partway through if they choose.
Excellent.
Thank you, Rob.
So I think this is great. I was so looking forward to this presentation. I loved the collaboration, and from your presentation, I feel that as well from all of you. And I would imagine as advisors to have the support of the fire department, I think that just really kind of elevates your game, so to speak, and really gives you an opportunity, whether you decide to ultimately pursue a career or not. You're clearly learning lifelong skills and life-saving skills. So congratulations for sort of being in, I guess, somewhat of an inaugural new class. The Post has a long history in Westborough that Westborough's very proud of. And so I'm glad to see this program, kind of revived and growing. So congratulations. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you guys very much.
Any more questions?
Any other questions?
No.
Nope. Patrick?
All right, thank you.
No, okay, thank you very much for coming and participating in the
Appreciate it.
program.
Thank you.
And best of luck as you continue to learn. Okay, it is 7:15, and since our public hearing isn't scheduled until 7:30, we will move to some other items on the agenda. Where did Christy go? She might be going to see if someone else is here.
We're passing over 10.
We're passing over 10?
Yes. We didn't have a vote. Do you want to speak to that?
Oh,
Do you want to call
the
it?
custodian for 3 Baylor?
No, the gift account.
Gift account.
Oh, 9.
This is,
Oh. Okay. I'm off by a number.
it's okay.
Oh. Okay. Item number 10 on the agenda, which is to establish a gift account for trustee of soldiers' memorials. I believe we're going to pass over that. Is our current liaison there?
Yes, we need to take a formal vote on that. Apologize that it was on the agenda, so next meeting.
Okay.
We can do 3 Baylor.
If we can do the appointment of a custodian for 3 Baylor, Christie?
So the town has received final judgment in the tax lien case for 3 Baylor Ave, meaning that the town has full title to the property. And as such, the board needs to appoint a custodian of the property, which is typically the treasurer collector for the purposes of disposing of the property. So they would manage an auction if that was what we were interested in doing. I know that the Affordable Housing Trust has shown an interest. So that wouldn't preclude any of those actions. But we do need to name a custodian for the property. So DPW has already cleaned up the yard and secured the property, and fire and police are aware.
Okay. And I will say, as the board's representative on the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust, that the Housing Trust is interested in obtaining this property, rehabbing it, and offering it as an affordable unit as part of our 3-year goal of infill, of conversion of market rate to affordable as part of the plan in a way that doesn't really change town demographics. There's a current effort to understand that process, is how it would move forward up to and including a vote at town meeting to transfer. And the finances around that. I don't know if you want to.
No, I did end up speaking with town council, so it does require a vote of town meeting to transfer it to the trust. In terms of any sort of payment of the back taxes owed, that would just be a sort of separate agreement between the trust and the board. So, we can
answered my question.
explore all those things going forward. Yep.
So, okay. So we need a motion to appoint the treasurer collector as the custodian of 3 Baylor Avenue.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Oh, sorry, Shelby.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, so who seconded?
Shelby.
Shelby, okay. And any other questions or comments? Patrick? So the way the monitor's working, when you put the yellow hand up, I only see half of it, but I don't take it personally.
No, I have no questions.
Okay, so I'll move to roll call vote. I'll start with you, Patrick, since you're unmuted.
Welch, yes.
Johnson, yes.
Marshall, yes.
Keo, yes.
And Edinburgh, yes. The motion passes 5-0, 5 being present. Okay. We'll move to item 12 on the agenda, which is update the job description or amend the classification plan for the outreach case manager and the library assistant. So I'll turn it over to Kim Foster.
All right, as you've seen in the past several months, as we have turnover in positions, we take the opportunity to review the job description. The one before you tonight is for the Senior Center's outreach case manager. Our incumbent will be retiring in mid-December, and we'd like to use the proposed updated job description that's before you tonight when we go out to recruit to backfill that position. A couple of things, we've made some adjustments based on just over time. This better reflects what the actual position's duties are. We've captured some things that weren't previously captured. We also have just two things that I would note. This position is a mandated reporter. The nature of the things that they are dealing with, while the individual is not a social worker, they are dealing with often very sensitive issues and matters that require significant independent judgment, as well as we have added that this individual could assume duties of the director in the director's absence. There's not currently a job description for anyone at the senior center where that is that exists. The other significant piece, or the pieces I want to direct you to, we are both looking to upgrade the, regrade the position to a higher classification based on the review of the duties, the scope of responsibilities. And currently the position is budgeted at 35 hours a week. This is, my understanding is it was originally budgeted at 40 hours. The adjustment was made at the employee's request to work fewer than that number of hours. We'd like to restore it to a 40-hour position. We think that would be helpful, and it's also, those hours will be put to good use. If we make these changes, we can absorb them within the current year budget, and we are making, we are proposing that the FY23 budget support this increase as well.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Shelby?
I would just say, so I think this is a great change. It's a huge enhancement. It probably could be 57 hours.
Yes, no doubt.
There's the work that the current person does. You know, there will be large shoes to fill.
Yes.
Whoever comes into that position, and it's certainly a necessary and critical part of, and it supports really our, you know, our strategic plan, our master plan about Westborough being a great place to age safely and effectively and happily, and so fully support it. Thank you.
Sean or Patrick? Patrick?
Yeah, I guess one point and one question. My first point would be, I would just recommend that we change the term elders to seniors throughout the job description to be in sync with the senior center itself. And then also I would just suggest, my question was in regards to the supervisory responsibilities. Will this individual be also responsible for like goal setting and annual reviews of those two individuals? Is that part of the direct supervision?
I think that's done in conjunction with the director.
That was it. Thank you.
One other point I failed to mention, this is covered by the position as part of the clerical union, and the union has seen the proposed changes and has no issue with them and supports it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Sure. I'll make that motion if I can find it. There we go. I move to appoint the, can't talk tonight.
Sure you can make
I don't know. I move to approve the updated outreach case manager job description as presented and amend the classification plan to reflect the position at grade N16 and 40 hours a week.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any further comment or discussion? Patrick?
Yeah, well, that should we amend that motion to include the change I just suggested around elders and seniors?
I thought that was already updated in what I'd seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That change is reflected in the red lines.
Okay. I didn't see it in the packet, so.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
I'm good, thank you.
It is.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? Seeing, hearing none, roll call vote. Sean?
Keo, yes.
Shelby?
Marshall, yes.
Patrick?
Welch, yes.
Johnson, yes.
And Edinburgh, yes. Motion passes 5-0, 5 being present. Next is the classification for the library assistant.
Sure. There was no update to a job description with this item, and with my apologies, I just handed you a slight revision. Patrick, there is one update to the information that was provided in your packet. So this is really just a housekeeping item to update our classification plan. We have a number of library assistant positions that support the library, and just given the nature of the positions, many of them being part-time, and the schedule and the hours that the library is open, Over time, as positions have been filled, a position that may have been a 16-hour position may have been refilled at a 12-hour position with some of those hours reallocated. It's really scheduling based. So if the one update included, there was a 5-hour position that I failed to include on the copy that was in your packet. So the current classification authorizes 186 hours of library assistant hours. The actual current and what is proposed as well in the FY23 budget, those hours are distributed as on the sheet that you're looking at, and it's 184.75 hours. So there's really no material change other than actually reflecting the hours that the individuals that we currently have on payroll work.
Okay.
And this does not affect any of the other positions for the library staff, strictly the assistants.
Okay, are there any questions?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So this was confusing. I think I understand it better now, but I guess the ones that are proposed to go to 0, does that mean that they get removed now, or will they still stay on there and this list continue to grow?
The proposed list is what will show up in the classification plan.
So the ones that are 0s will be gone then?
Yes.
Now. Okay.
They've basically shifted into the ones that will show up as the approved
Right. As I
positions.
see like the 12 hours, it looks we're moving.
Yes.
Where it says approve 1, we're going to approve 4, so some of these other smaller ones.
Yes.
Okay.
And again, this is just given over time, the library director has needed flexibility in terms of filling shifts and trying to identify. One of the comments that came up in the staffing study last year had some recommendations around scheduling and staffing and, having positions in increments of 4 hours work best. So they're always looking at and adapting. We just need to keep pace with that as we go forward. This will get us to where we are today, and then as changes come up, we'll try to stay on top of them.
Okay, great. And the net impact is 1.25 hours less.
Yeah. And again, this matches to what is actually
What
budgeted.
is actually happening.
And there's no budgetary impact.
No, there's no budgetary impact. You're not adding any hours to what currently exists or approving any increases.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'll
Nope.
move to amend the classification plan to reflect the library assistant positions and hours as presented on this new updated sheet.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Seeing, hearing none, I'll call the vote. Roll call vote. Patrick?
Welch, yes.
Sean?
Keo, yes.
Marshall, yes.
Ian?
Johnson, yes.
And Edinburgh, yes. The motion passes 5-0, 5 being present. It is now 7:28 PM, and so at 7:30, we have our scheduled tax classification hearing. So I'll ask our assessor, John Steinberg, to step forward and start setting up. While he does that, I'll need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved. Do I need a specific motion?
Second.
Sorry.
Just motion.
A motion to open the public meeting,
Public hearing.
public hearing for the tax classification.
Moved, seconded.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote.
Can I just ask a question on this? So this is a public hearing, and was it posted?
It's posted on the agenda. It's only required to be posted on the agenda. So
Okay.
there's no advertising required.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So, nope, that's why we have comments and questions. So roll call vote. Patrick?
Welch, yes.
Ian?
Johnson, yes.
Marshall, yes.
Keo, yes.
And Edinburgh, yes. So by vote of 5-0, 5 being present, we open the public hearing for our tax classification hearing. And John Steinberg, our chief assessor.
Sorry.
Getting there.
Getting there,
Getting there.
So the process for this is Mr. Steinberg will make a presentation. We'll open the floor to the select board for any questions, comments, discussion. Then we'll open the floor to members of the public who may be present or connecting through the remote means before any motions or resolutions or votes of the select board.
All right, good evening.
Good evening. Welcome.
There you go. Is this better?
Yes.
My name is John Steinberg. I am your chief assessor. I'm here tonight for the 2022 tax classification hearing. I feel like it's been forever since I've given one of these. It was quite the long year. I want to begin by recognizing my two board members who unfortunately could not attend, Joe McDonough and Mark Silverberg, and thank them for all their help over the course of the past year. I also want to take a minute just to recognize my two employees who are here, as well as Tara Damiano, who could not be, Alex Senzik, the assistant, and Liz Scher, the administrative assistant, and just thank them for all the work they did this year. I was out for a bit, and they really made it possible to be here tonight in such a short amount of time by doing their job and holding on the fort and give a good service. It's really a tribute to the job that they do that we could get this done in time. So thank you to them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so the purpose for this hearing will be to cast three votes. The first vote will be to maintain a single tax rate or shift a portion of the levy from the residential class to the commercial, industrial, and personal property class. The second will be to vote whether to adopt a residential exemption, and the third, to vote whether to adopt a small commercial exemption. And I'll get into explaining all those, but first I'd like to start with a little overview of where we stand this year, where our numbers are relative to the levy, our excess levy capacity, and values. So this is our year at a glance. I'll just point out for your sake that I did correct a error that was at the bottom of this. And it shows our year-to-year comparison. Our levy limit from last year at $92,312,000. I'm going to round a little bit. You add to that 2.5% per Proposition 2.5 in new growth for this year, which came in at $2.15 million, which is down a little from last year, but still well above where we were originally projecting, gives us a new levy limit of $96,771,000. We add to that our debt exclusion and presents a total maximum allowable levy of $97.5 million. That's $97,522,843. This year's levy is $83,730,727, which leaves us an increase in excess levy capacity, and I'm going to read this exactly, to $13,792,115.79. And that's important because that's the amount of taxes that you could have raised over the past years that you did not. This year, for fiscal '22, the total town value went up to $4.529 billion. It's up $160 million. That's 3.67%. And if you choose to maintain a single tax rate, that rate will be estimated at $18.49. And I emphasize that's estimated because until we are all done, and Lee and I have submitted to Gateway in the final numbers, that number is not official until approved by the Department of Revenue. This year, single-family values went up 3.5% to $558,576. Now, you may say, oh my God, the real estate market's going crazy. How could that only go up 3.5%? Well, the interesting thing is this valuation is as of January 1st, 2021, so it examines 2020 sales. And 2020 was a really mixed year because the beginning of 2020 was deep in COVID territory, and it was not what the end of 2020 was. When I evaluate and create the mass appraisal model, I have to look at the whole year's sales, and I have to create a model that brings my median values to within a certain percent to get approved by the state. When I looked at that whole year's sales, the average single family only went up 3.5%. Now, bear in mind, there are certain segments in the market that do different things. Some of them certainly went up well in excess of that 3.5. And then there were even some that came down a little. We have a breadth a wide breadth of inventory in this town, and where that inventory lays within the market can dictate which segment of the market does different things. It's not linear, okay? It's evaluated based upon location, style, size, you name it. We compare like properties with like properties. Given that and the estimated tax rate of $18.49, the average single-family tax will increase by $325.39. I'm pleased to say that that is below the estimate that we brought at the October town meeting, and it's actually slightly below what we discussed back in May. And that reason for that has to do not only with just the levy, but the total value of the town. Where that total value comes out makes a difference in calculating the tax rate. That total value is not established and set until after town meeting, which is why you will see a difference between the numbers presented in the October town meeting and the numbers presented today. Our value by class, last year we had a little bit of a shift to the positive for the commercial industrial. This year we go back a little bit the other way. You can see that the majority of our value still lies in the residential property, with just shy of 70% residential, and we're just over 30% non-residential. And that's still a significant amount over other communities. We're number 6, I think, in the state in ratios. Marlborough has now surpassed us a couple of years ago. But the trend is definitely towards more and more residential as more residential is being built. Now that shifts a little bit as we get these big projects, the Olympus project, the Astellas project, and the Amazon Plus projects, wherever they land. The net values from fiscal '21, the residential class went up $138.5 million. The commercial class declined by $48 million, and the industrial class went up by 3.2. Personal property also increased by $37 million. I want to emphasize relative to the commercial class, one of the issues with having such a large commercial base is when things like COVID happen, or happened, I guess, or anything happens that negatively impacts the commercial real estate market, you feel it here, and that can impact the shift to the residential market. Let's face it, we had closed hotels on January 1st. We have to bear in mind what the effective date is of our assessment. So it's a COVID assessment date, and so we have to look at where that impacts the commercial real estate. It's a hard to do, but it will impact the overall town's value greater than it would in other towns that have less commercial property. Relative to the industrial property, the industrial markets have been very strong over the past years. Those values continue to move as industrial vacancy is well below what commercial vacancy is, and there's no signs of slowing down. Personal property we'll talk about a bit more later, but the personal property was primarily driven by Amazon Robotics, Astellas Pharmaceuticals, our utilities. Those are some big hitters relative to this year in growth, okay?
John, back to that slide, is the net on the industrial, are we missing a number in there? It looks like it should be like 32 million versus 3.2.
Okay.
I think the percentage is right, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah. If you say so, I don't have the math in front of me, but I believe you.
Looks like it went from 452 to 484, so.
Oh, I got you right there, okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. So this demonstrates the history of our ratio of residential to non-residential value. And can you see the top line, which is the growth in residential value as a percent by class, versus the other lines that continue to go the other way in comparison. New growth. To define new growth is real estate or personal property that has not been taxed previously. So new construction, whether it be a new building like Olympus or the renovation and expansion of Amazon, or a deck or an addition to a house, a finished basement, that all falls under new growth. With personal property, New growth represents new machinery and equipment used in the conduct of business, and what it includes depends on the type of business. The sources of personal property new growth, you can see listed there, global life sciences, I apologize, that's last year's list. It's Astellas Pharmaceuticals, Amazon Robotics. This is the first year that Astellas was fit up, so all of their machinery and equipment that was brought in for year one was included in that number. So they're really the big majority of that number, even more so than Amazon Robotics, because on January 1st, Amazon Robotics was still ramping up. It should be a very different issue this year, where Astellas will not have the new growth I would expect, and Amazon Robotics will. And you can see the real estate new growth continues. It's driven primarily by the Pulte project, Chauncey Lake condominiums, Astellas Pharmaceuticals build out, just so to identify that, at 9 Tech Drive, the old Bose building. They took that office building and converted into a biotech R&D building. The Olympus project, which we can see, and the Amazon Robotics project. Relative to our average single-family tax bill, this graph represents what it has done in the past, going up, again, $325 this year. And here's just a quick snapshot at some other local communities and where their taxes have gone. Hopkinton is now the leader of the pack. And Shrewsbury, just to point out the numbers on the right side, their average single-family tax is going up over $1,000 this year due to a 2.5 override. So, you know, for a long time we have pointed at Shrewsbury as Shrewsbury, what are they doing, what are they doing? Well, this is the price you pay sometimes for what you do previously instead of planning. And here's a quick summary of our numbers that show the increase in levy, the excess levy capacity, and the trend. Just to point out, in 2019, we had a year where the average single-family tax bill went up $764, and we ate into our excess levy capacity dramatically. I point that out only because the trend has continued, that we've been expanding it. And this is something that I added. You won't have it in your packet. It was interesting to me, and I'll say interesting to Leah, too. But I thought to myself as I was looking at the numbers, discussing with Alex, and I said, well, what if we didn't have all that excess levy capacity? People ask me all the time, what about Proposition 2.5? So I went back and I took the levy of 2021, that's the amount that we raised by taxes, and I added the 2.5%. And that brought me to $83 million. I said, okay, well, let's add the residential growth and the commercial growth to that and leave out the personal property growth, because there's also been a lot of talk about personal property growth, because personal property growth, we have so much of it annually that really is what can contribute to our excess levy capacity every year. And that value is fleeting, as we learned with AstraZeneca. When people take their machinery and equipment and go, the tax dollars generated by that value get spread out. We're fortunate that at this pace, our personal property total value continues to grow at a pace that exceeds the depreciation of personal property. So after doing all that math, I came up with a levy without personal property of $83,737,502. Then I looked at what our levy was this year. Mind you, going up 3.37%. And our actual levy this year is $83,730,272. So if you look at those numbers, technically, we are within Proposition 2.5 guidelines without considering personal property growth. Okay, and I point that out because it's been such a topic of conversation relative to that 3.37%. Again, something I thought stood out a little bit. Our top taxpayers, one thing to point out here is in some smaller communities, the top taxpayers have, oh look, there's another mistake. National Grid is not a residential project. There you go. Before Ian gets to point it out.
Beat me to it.
It's okay, I have my wife proof this. Just kidding. Our top taxpayers are a good mix. We do have some personal property accounts on there with Selco, which is Verizon Wireless, and National Grid, okay? But it's predominantly non-personal property, residential, office R&D, and biotech. And those are much more stable real estate markets, okay? Especially the residential side of it. We have a lot of apartments. That's not news to anyone. But those generate some big numbers relative to value, and actually more stable even than the office, okay, which we're seeing through COVID. Now we're going to take a look at our first vote of the evening. We'll vote them all together, but I'll go through and explain them all individually. The first one is a residential factor, which is, according to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 56, allows you to shift up to 150% of the tax burden between the classes. Okay, so if you wanted to reduce the tax burden for residential property and shift some to the CIP, the commercial, industrial, and personal property, you would adopt a tax factor above 1. And here's just some examples of how it would impact the different tax rates. So if you adopted a factor of 1.05, shifting 5%, the residential tax rate would drop to $18.08 per thousand, and the CIP tax rate would increase to $19.41. And you can see how it affects the different classes of property. The residential properties would get a 2.22 decrease, and the commercial industrials would get almost 5%. And then I'm going to give you some examples relative to here as to how that translates into savings. So that first example is the 5% shows a savings of $229.02 on the average single-family tax bill versus $2,380.04 on the average commercial industrial property. And this sort of gives you an idea of where those ratios lead you, okay? The greater the shift, the greater the impact on the commercial, industrial, personal property. So why do we do this? Why does any town do this? The state law allows you to do it. It allows you to give some tax relief to residential property owners. That's why people do it, okay? The cons is that a higher commercial rate can inhibit commercial growth. We still have some commercial vacant land, and it does impact when companies are shopping around where to build things. Of course, location is a primary factor, but taxes matter. You know, they're talking big numbers. When you have a building that's worth $25 million and you're using the Marlboro tax rate of 25 per thousand, or ours at 1849, that's a big difference in the end on an annual basis. And those increased expenses can reduce commercial property values, as it's a ratio of expenses to income as to how you drive commercial property values. And then the last question with the cons is it's allowed by law, but is it fair and equitable? The next vote tonight will be on the residential exemption. The residential exemption is a shift in value within the residential class. There's a couple things that are required. The property must be owner occupied, and it must be a primary residence. They must apply for it annually. And in our evaluation, it's estimated that 4,870 properties in town would qualify. You can shift up to 35% of the average residential value, and not the average single value, but the average residential value. And by doing this, you would create a higher residential tax rate because the value that you shift stays within the residential class. And so that creates a natural break point where all of a sudden you have a higher tax rate. So properties over a certain point are going to be paying more in taxes while others are getting a reduction. This exemption is typically accepted by communities that have high second homes, high number of second homes as a percentage, or a large amount of rental properties, okay? We are not one of them. If you look at the list of communities from Barnstable to Boston, Somerville, Tisbury, these are all communities that fall within those two categories. And here are a couple of examples relative to the savings and the shift and how that math would happen. All properties above $648,000 would see an increase in taxes. So if you had a property at $558,000, the average single family, and you shifted they would realize a savings of $157, while a higher valued property would see an increase of $439. The next is a small commercial exemption. Small commercial exemption has a few requirements as well. Properties must be Class 3 commercial, not industrial, which is Class 4. They must be valued under $1 million, and all tenants within that property must have less than 10 employees. It's a bit of a estimate relative to actually figuring out which properties they are. We do go out and try to make that analysis based upon information that's given to us by the State Department of Employment and Training, as well as driving the town and looking at the properties that we know are under $1 million. This, again, is rarely adopted. Only 14 of the 351 communities have it. We've identified 45 properties that may be eligible. I emphasize may be eligible because we'd have to do further evaluation about the employee counts, and it would be an annual application. The other thing that's just notable about this is a tax bill that goes to the owner of the property. These properties, unlike larger commercial properties, are often not net rent. So the taxes are often not being passed on to the tenants in the same way they are in a triple net building, where the tenant is paying all of the expenses. So this really can be a tax savings for the property owner, not the small businesses. So just to review what I'd ask you to vote again tonight, the selection of a minimum residential factor of 1 yields a single rate. If you choose to do that, it will provide an estimated rate of $18.49 per thousand. The town of Westborough has never elected to adopt a split rate. To vote whether or not to accept a residential exemption, as I mentioned, most communities that have them have large number of second homes or non-owner occupied properties. And last, the small commercial exemption, which are for properties valued under $1 million, which typically benefits the property owners, and they have to have less than 10 employees.
Okay.
That's
Thank
all
you
I
very
got.
much for the presentation and the information.
I apologize for those, errors.
No worries.
Just testing us.
Big
Just
critic
testing
over
us, and I will open the floor to the select board with any questions or comments. Okay, well, people are composing, I guess, as I think about whether or not, I think about the single tax rate, a couple things come to mind. One, I see in other communities that have had dual tax rates that are trying to move back to a single tax rate, and it seems to take years to step it down, and it's hard to do. What particularly hit me was the fact that going to a dual tax rate could actually hurt the value of some of our commercial or industrial properties. I think with certain types of office space coming out of COVID and uncertainty as to what's going to happen with people going back to the office or hybrid and remote work, that there's already some softening in that market. And I would hate to see a change in tax strategy for the town further soften that market. I'm aware, I believe Milford, when they went to a dual tax rate, that commercial property values dropped enough that the hoped for impact on residential taxpayers didn't materialize. In fact, a larger percentage of the burden ended up on the residential side. So you could almost say it backfired in an attempt to save households. So I'm very leery of making any change that would put us in a dual tax rate. Any other? Ian?
Yeah, I am, my vote tonight will be to not to adopt a residential exemption, a small commercial exemption, and more importantly, to maintain the single tax rate. I think it's hugely important for our town, and I think the fair and equitable piece is spot on in terms of the services that are provided. Yes, it's provided to the full town, but the services that are used in those areas, they help pay for what we enjoy here as residents, and they enjoy. But I think it's fair to not burden them with things that we as residents vote for that they don't get to vote for, and then go and ask them to pay for it. So I think, to me, it's something that I'm proud that we've done. I think it's helped us on the business side. I think that we have a lot of hopes for the future in terms of growth opportunities. And I think part of that, as John said, part of it is location. We can't deny that. We're in a great location. But I think of high importance as well is the fact that we have a single tax rate. When we look at some surrounding communities that don't, I do think that that makes us a favorable destination for businesses to relocate to grow in other things. So for me, it's something that I've supported and been on this board and been on the finance committee, but I think it would be foolish for us to think about creating a dual tax rate here. I think single tax rate is absolutely the way to go. It's worked well for us, and I think we should continue with it.
Okay, thank you. Patrick, since we can't physically see you right now with the remote meeting, but we can hear you, do you have any questions or comments?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. So my perspective on this is I'm very, I'll say the opposite of what Ian just stated. I think it would be very foolish not to do this. We're in an economic time right now with COVID and all of the impacts of that with our taxpayer base having to pay these bills. And $1 is not the same to everybody in our community. So I think we need to be more creative in our approach. I think we need to, this to me is the status quo, and we're not in a period of time where status quo, I think, meets the needs of a large portion of our community. And I would suggest that we as a board look for a creative path forward. These three options are three tools that we can, alter the scale in a way that I believe is truly more equitable than it is today. I would support and be willing to discuss a residential factor of 1.05 because today the commercial tax rate has decreased 9 out of the last 10 years and currently has dropped 7.5%, if I'm understanding the slides correctly, this last fiscal year, whereas the average homeowner tax rate has increased 9 out of the last 10 years with an average increase of $257 per average household. That's just not sustainable. It's just not sustainable for our community. We need to provide more relief to our residents, and I believe we can do this in an equitable way with our businesses. I would also suggest that the residential exemption also be seriously considered by the board, because if again, looking at John's slides here, that residential exemption would only increase the taxes by $211 for the average high-value home in our town, whereas it decreased the tax rate on the average home by $387 and low-value homes by $252. This directly helps our most vulnerable portion of our community, the seniors and those that are on low income or fixed incomes. And that's super important to me. And it's something that I ran for office on. And this particular question was asked during the Democratic meeting as I was running for office. And at that point in time, my answer to the question is I do my homework on this. And I really wanted to wait until I saw the figures from John on this to better understand it. And I really feel that we need to be more creative in our solution. And then finally, if we adopt the small commercial portion of this as well, that can actually offset a portion of the residential factor increase that I mentioned, 1.05. Basically, the average qualifying business would be able to deduct about $911 out of what would have been a $2,380 increase to their tax bill based on the residential factor of 1.05. So essentially, it would only be a $1,400 increase to the average small commercial qualifying business. Average non-qualifying would be a $15 increase, and the average high-value non-qualifying would see a $2,680. Again, we're talking about large companies here. And it's far easier for those companies to go modify their business to make more money, to increase the revenue than it is for our taxpayers to go increase their income. And again, I'll just finish by saying that $1 is not equal to all of our residents across town. So I think we need to seriously consider options to be more creative as to how we support the entire town here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sean?
Yeah, thank you, Ellen. I think this is a decision that we can't take lightly. I think we've had a single tax rate for a long time. It's worked well for the town. I have concerns that even if we make a 5% change to 1.05, you're sort of then sending the message to the business community that you're willing to change the rate, and if you're willing to change it this year, are you willing to change it again in the future and make the difference even bigger? As we're trying to attract businesses, I believe the way we work to lower our residents' tax rate and the taxes they pay is by attracting businesses to this community and increasing the value of those businesses on a go-forward basis. And I hope that we'll start to see that. I think COVID kind of, has created some difficulty there, but I think going forward we can continue to do that and sort of bounce back from, the 70-30 split, and move back towards, I don't know if we'll ever get to 60-40, but make real headway there. And I believe that changing the tax rate or the tax burden and shifting it to the commercial and industrial base, just doesn't move us in the right direction there. So I'm going to vote for maintaining the tax rate as it is currently.
Okay. Shelby?
Yeah, thank you. So I think that given where we're at and given that we're coming out of COVID and given our financial stability, I would not be in favor of making changes to to proposing a residential commercial split or residential exemption. I think that now is not the time to do it. Patrick, I appreciate sort of the energy and the thought that's there. I also think that we have an appointment coming up to the Senior Tax Relief Fund. I think that group has been stalled a little bit because it hasn't had a full committee, and I think that there's work to be done there, and I've been excited to see that work coming out of that committee, so I'm happy to see that we're bringing that to hopefully to a full quorum for that group. But at this point in time, I would echo the sentiments of both Ian and Sean in terms of what businesses mean to this community, how they affect the tax rate, how they allow us to, as residents, enjoy the services that we do have, and how they don't create the same cost burden that residents do. So while I certainly have sensitivity to those that don't have as much flexibility to manage tax increases, I do think that that is also, there is a cost to being in a town like Westborough and for the services that we ask for and we vote for and we support. And so I think we have to keep an eye on that ball. We've got work to do, but I would not be in favor of change this year.
Okay. At this point, as this is a public hearing, I don't see anyone who's joined us remotely online by the Zoom link. I'll ask if there are any members of the audience present who want to speak with respect to the public hearing. Going once, going twice, seeing none. I sort of, presented my position up front, so at this point I would entertain a motion.
Excuse me, you did receive a letter.
Oh, I'm
that we
sorry.
should
Read that
note.
into the.
Oh,
Yep.
Do you want me to read that, or do you want to read it? Or?
if you want to read it I'll have you read it into the record. I apologize.
Sure. This is dated November 23rd, 2021. Is addressed to the Westborough Selectmen. The Quarter 9 495 Regional Chamber of Commerce strongly supports the continuation of a single tax classification in Westborough for the following reasons. Bullet 1, it promotes a welcoming climate to new business growth, job creation, and existing business expansion. Bullet 2 is it is equitable because business uses minimal town services resources, education, recreation, etc. Bullet 3 is consistent with 68% of all towns in the Commonwealth who maintain a single tax rate. And Bullet 4 helps to keep Westborough competitive by retaining existing businesses and enables Westborough to sustain its fiscal well-being. Quarter 9 495 Regional Chamber of Commerce is an organization with over 500 local businesses serving Westborough as well as the core communities of Northborough, Southborough, Shrewsbury, and Grafton. The Chamber is committed to sustaining the growth and economic viability of our towns by supporting existing businesses and helping to attract new businesses to the region. Under its current single tax structure, Westborough has prospered through the development and growth of business, which has led to new jobs and tax revenue in our town. If a dual tax classification was to be adopted, this would result in increased costs to local businesses. Due to the pandemic, area business owners are under unprecedented stress, and the last thing they need in this situation is an increase in expenses. Also, your local business community plays a key role in supporting the quality of life in Westborough, with scholarships for your students and schools, donations for the Westborough Food Pantry, and sponsors of your athletic and community events. We firmly believe that by maintaining the single tax rate, Westborough will continue to attract and retain businesses in our community and promote business development in our town. And signed sincerely, Karen Chapman, President and CEO of the Quarter 9 495 Regional Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I'll entertain motions.
I would move to not adopt a residential exemption or small commercial exemption and to maintain a single tax rate by adopting a residential factor of 1.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Any further discussion or comments? Okay, seeing and hearing none, we will go to roll call vote. Patrick, I'll start with you.
No.
Okay, Ian?
Johnson, yes.
Shelby?
Marshall, yes.
Keough, yes.
Edinburgh, yes. So the motion passes on a vote of 4-1, 5 being present. Okay, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing for tax classification.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote. Patrick? That was a...
Sorry, Welch, yes.
Ian?
Johnson, yes.
Marshall, yes.
Keough, yes.
Edinburgh, yes. Vote of 5-0, 5 being present. The tax classification public hearing is closed. I want to thank our Chief Assessor, John Steinberg, the Assessor's Office and the team, and the Finance Department for all of their work in pulling together the information and helping us manage this. Thank you very much.
And I presume in the past, John, you've posted this on the Town Assessor's website?
Already there.
All right, awesome, great.
I'll have to repost it.
I was going to say, I know
fix it?
you'll make the corrections. Thank you. Thanks so much, appreciate it. Yep.
Make sure you tell your wife you threw her under the bus, too.
She is a no.
Hopefully she has other things to do tonight.
I think that's the only spot.
Pen is running out of ink, is that it? Okay. Okay.
I feel like that commercial, the 1984 commercial with the guy throwing the hammer through the... I could see my picture up in the background there.
There you go.
Do you need that, John? Or?
You're larger than life. What can we say when it comes to being on the screen here at least? Okay, great.
There you go.
Next on our agenda is a request to place a menorah and hold an event on the Rotary. So I'll ask the folks who are proponents of that to step forward. Please adjust and speak into the microphones, and not just for the board here, but for the people at home. please identify yourselves.
I'm Devorah Green.
And you can tip that.
You can move the microphone closer
There
so
you
we
go.
can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm Rabbi Michael Green from Chabad of Westborough.
Okay.
Are we speaking?
Yes.
I'm not sure what to say, but I'll just say what, yeah, we've been putting the menorah at the Rotary, Westborough Rotary, for the last 20 years.
This will be the 20th year.
It's been really nice. It's been a community builder. Everyone comes, Jews and non-Jews alike. It's well-attended and nice, and it's been really non-eventful and just a really nice event. So I was kind of surprised that we got called in here because it's kind of like a non-issue for us anyway, and it seems for the community. The only problem was that last year we were out of state on a long road trip, and we left the menorah up a little too long because we were away, and that only happened once, and we promise that will never happen again. And is there anything else? Oh, the dates. Hanukkah starts on this Sunday, November 28th, and ends on next Sunday, December 5th. And we'd like to put up the menorah, depending.
Yeah, we're not sure. We don't want to conflict with the Rotary Club because there's an event this Sunday.
Yeah.
We put out a call, but we couldn't get through to. We'd like to, if the Rotary Club is okay with it, it would be easier for me to put it up on Friday, because Saturday we can't put it up, and Sunday I don't think I get any volunteers to help me. Plus, there's an event going on. If it conflicts with the event on the Rotary on Sunday, then I don't mind to come later Sunday evening and put it up. It's just we'd miss the first night of Hanukkah, but that's okay. If that's an issue, I just wasn't able to communicate with anyone from the Rotary Club to find out what would work for them.
So two things. So first, we have a new policy, so that's why we reached out to you so that you were aware of it, which is that you would have to come to have this place. That's why you're here. And then also, I would recommend that you talk to our recreation director, Jen Kirkland.
Oh, Jen. Sure.
She's not here now, but she would be the good resource for you in terms of when you could put it up, because I think she was potentially anticipating that you would have that request. So definitely reach out to her directly, and we can give you her phone number.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we know Jen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we could ask. I didn't realize. It was always they're always the Rotary Club.
They do it in conjunction with the Recreation Department and Economic Development, so Jen's really a good contact for that.
Okay, sure. Yeah, we'll call it tomorrow.
Great.
Yeah. So and then so if we would, if it would be okay with the Rotary Club or with Jen, we would put we'd like to put it up on Friday, and then we would take it down
The next day, like Monday?
After, so Hanukkah is
So
over.
Monday, December 6th?
Yeah, we would take it down Monday, September 6th, yeah. December, yeah.
7th.
Yeah, and I mean, we would like to put it in the same place that we put it for the past 19 years. And the event, we have, usually obviously everyone here will be invited if there is an event. But we always notify the police department and the fire department. And on the first, I think we want to do it this year. We want to make the actual lighting on the last night of Hanukkah, which is Sunday.
December 5th.
Yeah, thank you. December 5th. And then at that point, we invite like the fire chief, the police chief, the board of selectmen, anyone from town to come. Sometimes we have some veterans. And that night we use kerosene or like tiki lamps. They're self-contained. But the rest, right after the event, we take down the tiki lights and we put back the electric bulbs, so that throughout the 8 nights of Hanukkah, starting from Sunday night, this
November
Sunday,
28th.
November 28th, my calendar.
That's teamwork. That's
I
good.
know, exactly.
Lucky I'm here.
Yeah, so we would put the first light bulb would be lit, and the shamas, the middle bulb, that would go on automatically when the lights go on Sunday the 28th, and then for the whole week until the following Sunday. But the last Sunday we'll do tiki lights, if that's the night of the event, the public lighting.
Okay, so we have the request. I'll open the floor to Select Board for any questions.
No, I appreciate, the one question I had, you actually already answered, which was about taking it down, because it did,
Yeah.
We had concerns with that, so I appreciate you addressing that up front, so I have no other questions.
So I did have some other concerns related to what happened last year. When permission was granted for the menorah, the email from town manager indicated that having any signage would require select board approval, which due to timing wasn't possible, but there was still a sign. And the policy then, as well as the updated policy now, does not allow for advertising. And
Could you clarify that?
so having a sign with your web address and phone number is advertising.
Oh.
So that,
We always put up the sign, we kind of change it every year with like that blue tape to make it just to tell everyone the date. It's kind of like an advertising the date. Is that not okay?
I think it has the Chabad of Westborough and then the phone number. So that would be the part. It's not so much the
Yeah.
Happy Hanukkah, it's the.
That number doesn't even work.
Yeah.
That number doesn't even work.
Yeah, so it would be that sign. I don't mean to interrupt
Right,
you, Alan,
right,
but
that would be
yeah.
the sign.
So just like you can't,
so.
We could cover that part. The only reason we like the sign up is only because
It's good advertising.
No,
like,
it has,
for
we
the
advertise the
date,
date,
you know,
we
for
advertise the date, but
people.
we don't mind to cover the, and we like to say it says Happy Hanukkah.
Yeah.
We could cover the part of our, we don't care,
Yeah.
but we could put like a white strip
Yeah, we
over
could
it.
put something
I
over
think
it.
the dates are fine,
Perfect.
you
The
know.
dates
it's
are
hap-
fine.
You know what I mean?
Right,
The
Happy
dates are
Hanukkah
fine,
is-
but it's
Yeah.
an organization using it to kind of promote
Yeah,
itself.
that's fine. We're happy to, yeah.
And then the other concern is, last year you received guidance from the health director regarding your event. Specifically, at the time, given COVID, masking requirements and not serving food to be consumed at the event. And I heard from
remember
people that food was served.
I don't remember
We
guiding
don't-
in
yeah.
order not to serve
We
food.
didn't, I don't think we
don't-
received any guidance. I don't
remember
recall that at all.
Where was that given?
You received an email from Steve Bakari.
Really?
I'd love to
Our
go
health
back and look in my
director.
email
Yeah.
because I don't remember seeing that. It's
Yeah.
possible.
Does the Board of Selectmen prefer that we not serve, we usually serve like jelly donuts, but if
Last year,
it's-
we had like individually wrapped ones, which we did that for precaution.
Yeah.
And, you know, so people wouldn't have to touch it with their hands or whatever.
If the Board of Selectmen or if the Health Department doesn't want us to serve food, we're happy not to. I don't know why we missed that.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah. We've just been doing it a certain way for 18 years, 19 years that we're like on autopilot. But it is outdoors, and people last year who came, many people stood from afar or stood or even people stood on the sidewalk, not on the Rotary. And I anticipate the same this year.
Has there been any guidance at this point? I don't know where the Board of Health stands with public outdoor events. Just so
No,
that
I haven't
the-
I haven't heard any guidance
Okay,
for this year.
okay. So it would be, if you will, business as usual.
As far as I
Okay.
know.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, thinking of what we're doing with the holiday stroll, where there's free food and
Right,
and
right. Okay.
Halloween
Well,
event,
just,
whatever. So, yeah,
I
just
think
give us
last
guidance. I
year,
don't think
last
there's
year,
anything- Was definitely different.
last year is
Oh,
last year. It was different, but I think that I just want to make sure that you guys are clear. And if you have any
Right.
questions, our Jennifer Sullivan is our new Board of
Sure.
Health Director. You can certainly reach out to her with any questions, but.
Yeah, it just doesn't ring a bell. Like,
Yeah.
if we were
Yeah.
told that, we wouldn't have, you
Yeah.
know.
We wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, I don't
But we
remember that.
I remember we got permission for Lag BaOmer. It got rained out anyway. But and I
Yeah.
remember we were able to serve food. That was in May already, though. That was this year. I'm sorry. Good calendar. Yeah. So if there is any guidance, we're happy to comply.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Oh, Patrick.
Patrick.
Oh, Patrick, yes.
Just a quick comment. Great to see you, Rabbi Green and Deborah. It's wonderful to see you even long distance. I just wanted to send my regrets for both Julia and I. We would love to be able to attend there, but we're out of town. It's a great event, and I do enjoy seeing the menorah up on the Rotary. So best of luck on getting that going this year.
Thank you.
And I
Thank you.
look forward to seeing it when I get back.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Patrick.
Thank you.
Okay.
Send my love to Julia.
Okay, I will entertain motions.
So, I cannot talk tonight. Forget about it. I'm not making the motion. Go again.
Now you got me off guard. I will move to approve the display of a menorah in the town's Rotary from Friday, November 26th until Monday, December 6th, with removal to occur no later than end of business on Monday, December 6th. As long as it's okay with the recreation director. Check with that. And then, second, move to approve the public menorah lighting on December 5th from 3:30 PM to, do you have an end time? Or
4:30.
To 4:30
Lasts
PM.
about an hour.
From 3:30 PM to, well, I'll give you till 5 and then people can get off, but 3:30 PM
If it's
to
cold,
5 PM.
if it's cold, it'll end earlier than that.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any further questions, comments?
I would just add to that, just the reiteration of removing the
The name.
information on the sign.
The name, just the
There
name, the
should
name of the
be
phone, the
the
number.
name and the
Website.
phone number.
Right.
Yeah,
And
we'll-
no
Yeah,
website.
The advertisement.
The
Like you said, it's good
advertisement.
advertising. That's
Yeah,
where
we'll
we
remove
draw
it.
the line, so.
No, we could, we'll remove, we'll put like a,
Do you,
we'll put
you
a.
don't want to, like,
No,
if
we'll-
it says Chabad of
they
Westborough,
want
wishes
re-
you a happy
they want- they want re-
Hanukkah. You
no,
don't
they-
want the name
no,
either.
Happy
No,
Hanukkah
it
is
sh-
okay, just the name.
Not just the phone number and
Would
the
it be okay if we
website.
just took like
Yeah.
a piece of white, like a, what is it called, a
The-
contact
the
paper,
current
and just
sign
cover
in
the name
picture
and the
you
number?
sent Says Happy Hanukkah from Chabad with your phone number.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on that picture. Do you have
Yeah,
the picture?
so
What does it
just
say?
Just
Happy
remove.
Hanukkah is fine. If you want to put tape over the rest and put dates on, that's great.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll remove
But the
the,
organization and
yeah.
the phone number.
Okay.
yeah, we'll remove it.
Okay. Okay, so moved and seconded. Seeing or hearing no further comment, roll call vote. Patrick?
Welch, yes.
Johnson, yes?
Marshall, yes.
Keo, yes.
Edinburgh, yes. Passes by a vote of 5-0, 5 being present. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
for
Thank
participating.
you.
And Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah, happy
Happy Thanksgiving too.
Thank you.
Nice to see you all.
Okay,
Okay.
looking at what we've covered.
Go ahead. Don't say that.
Okay.
I know.
Takes it. So next on the agenda is item 12, amend the classification plan for the library assistant. Oh, sorry, we already did that. So next is to approve the DPW director contract, which is item 14, I believe. 13.
So we, Alan and Sean met with Chris, and obviously the board is aware that we have renegotiated a contract with Chris Payne, our DPW director, that will start on July 1st, 2022, through June 30, 2025. And so Sean's going to talk about the highlights.
Yes, thank you, Christy. So we came to an agreement. It was compensation would be $146,000 for fiscal year 2023. This represents a 12.7% increase from 2022, well-deserved. Additionally, the salary will increase by the same percentage as other non-union employees in the following years. There is also deferred compensation for fiscal years 2023, 2024, and 2025. The DPW director will receive $3,000 each year in deferred compensation. Additionally, the board agreed to add 40 hours of vacation time annually to the contract effective in 2023. And the notice of separation was updated to 90 days notice to the board should the director need to choose to voluntarily resign or retire.
Okay. Any questions? Or comments from other members of the board? Ian?
Just a comment, I mean, first of all, thank you to Sean and Alan, Christy for negotiating the contract. Thank you to Chris as well. I think we're lucky to have Chris in this role. He's done a great job, really stepped in and, put a plan in place and continue to follow through on it. So I am happy that we have this contract in front of us to vote for. I think it's well-deserved and look forward to having him here for the next 3 years and more thereafter. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'll add that the structure of the pay in the terms of the contract, put the structure of the contract in line with other department heads and chiefs and how we're currently, and how we plan to compensate those positions. It's a terminology in municipal government. I learned deferred compensation is actually retirement savings. It's a different mechanism for government employees, so that provides a mechanism for some of his compensation there. Additionally, by policy, the town looks to comparable communities and looks to be in the average. We don't want to be the most, the highest paid. We don't want to be the lowest. We want to be competitive in order to attract and retain quality personnel. And we definitely do have a strong leadership team right now. We want to maintain that. And so this compensation reflects aligning the position with those comparables and in line with that policy. And so I'm supportive of it in many respects. I think with the increased visibility of the work and the community outreach that the department's doing, it's more obvious that the changes that Chris has brought to the department, along with the leadership team that he's building and has built and exists within the department, down to the rank and file staff, has been a real benefit for the community and keeps us moving forward in some, in some very challenging issues and some very positive ways. So, if there are no other comments, I'll call the vote. Patrick, you're farthest away. You go first.
Welch, yes.
We actually have a motion, or?
I was going to say,
we have to make the motion. I'm sorry. We need to make the motion.
I was going,
I
do
didn't
we,
think so.
Ian made a comment, but I don't think it was a motion.
I didn't make a motion. I was waiting for Sean.
I'll make this motion. I move to approve the employment contract between the town of Westborough and Christopher Payant for the position of Department of Public Works Director for the fiscal years 2023 to 2025.
I'll second that.
Must be on this side of the table.
Moved and seconded.
Now, Pat.
No further comments or questions seen or heard. Patrick, you're furthest away. We'll have you vote.
I was mesmerized by Alan's speech there. So Welch, yes.
Ian?
Johnson, yes.
Marshall, yes.
Keo, yes.
Edinburgh, yes. Motion passes 5-0, 5 being present. Okay, next item on the agenda is a modification, an update to the Village Commons regulatory agreement. Christiel.
So we have been contacted by MCO Housing regarding the regulatory agreement for Village Commons. The Worcester County median income has increased since the original regulatory agreement was approved, and so the board just needs to approve the updated Exhibit B. The increase in price is $2,900, so the price goes from $203,700 to $206,600.
Okay, are there any questions? Okay, this is one of those procedural things that helps us maintain our affordable housing inventory. So if there's no other comments, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to.
Go ahead, Ian.
Oops, sorry. I was trying to move us along. I'll move to approve the updated Exhibit B for the Village Commons regulatory agreement.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further comments or questions? Seeing, hearing none, I'll call the vote now for real. Patrick?
Welch, yes.
Ian?
Johnson, yes.
Marshall, yes.
Keo, yes.
Edinburgh, yes. Motion passes 5-0, 5 being present. Next up, Christie, is the town manager report. So
Can we move the appointment? I don't know.
Yeah.
do I move the appointments first?
First, and then hit the town manager
Yeah.
report. Is that okay, or?
Yeah.
That's fine. I will do that. So next up will be item 16 on the agenda, request for appointment to town boards and committees. Nancy Strucker to the Spirit Committee and James McClung to the Senior Taxation Aid Committee. Okay. So Mr. James McClung has requested appointment to the Senior and Disabled Taxation Aid Committee. His application materials are in our packet, and appointments to this committee currently have an indefinite term. Mr. McClung's appointment will fill the last available position on this committee.
Very exciting.
It is. So, Chris, do you want to give us an overview of what this committee does, just for the public's knowledge?
Sure. The Senior Taxation Aid Committee, there's a fund that taxpayers can donate to, and the Senior Taxation Aid Committee receives applications from people who may need help with their taxes, and then they make awards. So.
Okay, and so with this appointment, the committee will be fully staffed and have a quorum and be functioning?
Yes.
Excellent, okay. The second appointment, Ms. Nancy Strucker has requested appointment to the Spirit Committee. We've seen her letter of interest in our packet. Appointments to this committee follow the fiscal year and are 1 year in length. Mrs. Strecker's appointment will fill the last available position on this committee as well. Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, then I will entertain the motions.
I will move to appoint James McClung to the Senior Disabled Taxation Aid Committee for an indefinite term, and also move to appoint Nancy Strecker to the Spirit Committee for a term to expire June 30th, 2022.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any additional comments or questions? Okay, this time we'll go near to far. Sean?
Keo, yes.
Marshall, yes.
Johnson, yes.
Patrick?
Welch, yes.
And Edinburgh, yes. Motions pass. Vote of 5-0, 5 being present. Now I want to thank Ms. Strecker and Mr. McClung for stepping forward and helping to serve the community. Okay. On to the town manager report. Christie.
So we are working on the FY23 budget. So we've already had meetings with all of our department heads, and over the next few weeks, we'll be focusing on getting that document completed. That's due to the select board and the advisory finance committee on December 21st per charter. The Green Community Annual Report was due last Friday, and so that's something that I was coordinating with the help of several different departments, pulling together the FY21 Green Community Annual Report, which updates the state on our efforts towards compliance with the Green Community designation. Jen Sullivan, our public health director, is looking to create a vacant and foreclosing property bylaw. It's something that she had in her previous community, and so she's brought that to us. So we did have a meeting this week with departments that would be involved in that to start to talk about that. So that's something that we would anticipate seeing on the annual town meeting warrant. We received notice that the Eversource fixed price program has been discontinued. So it's a fixed priced option rate for NSTAR natural gas customers. And so there's a notice attached to the town manager report that will also be published on the website. For department head updates, we are very proud to announce that for the second year in a row, we have received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for our fiscal 22 budget. As everybody knows, we applied for that for the first time last year and were awarded it, so we were excited to get it again the second year.
Great job.
Thanks.
Great try. Congratulations, and thank you.
The Westborough Fire Department's informing the select board and the community that as of January 1st, 2022, cellular providers will begin to phase out 3G technology. This is being done to add bandwidth for faster and more reliable network services such as 5G, and it's important because it could affect cellular devices and all other technologies such as fire alarms and burglar alarms. And so there's dates within the town manager report when they're currently scheduled to retire these technologies. The fire department responding to an EMS incident in the rear parking lot of Town Hall on November 9th. Upon arrival, fire paramedics Daniel Breen and John Doherty located an adult male in his 30s exhibiting cardiac complaints. Once in the ambulance, the patient rapidly deteriorated, becoming unconscious and suffered cardiac arrest. Paramedics were able to successfully defibrillate the patient to restore his heart rhythm, provide treatment until he was conscious, and transport him for immediate cardiac intervention, and he's doing well. The fire department was supported at town meeting to fund the removal of the municipal fire alarm infrastructure that existed throughout the community, and as of the day that this was provided, all that infrastructure was removed.
Oh, wow. That's great.
For information technology, the town received the Community Compact Best Practices Grant for $35,000. The assessment, as we've discussed before, will include a review of hardware infrastructure, networking, backup email, user account management, and department staffing and organization. So proposals will be received by the end of November with a selection in December. And then in recreation, there have been over 30,000 rounds of golf played this golf season at the Westborough Golf Course. Matt Griffith, our golf manager, is already busy planning for the 2022 season. Memberships for 2022 are available for purchase now through the Westborough Golf Club website or at the course. And when we did meet with them about their budget, we talked about having Matt come before you to give an update of some of the things that he's doing and changes he's made. So.
Can Can I ask a quick question on the fire department update?
Sure.
So, Christy, do you know, this is specific to the 3G phase out, will there be a process with the fire department where some sort of notice is provided by the fire department to commercial businesses who, you know, have radios, I don't know if it, radio frequency signal system that interacts with the fire department?
I don't know, but I can get more information
Okay,
from
yeah,
the
if you
chief
could,
about
that-
how that's
that
going to
would-
roll out.
That would be helpful. I mean, I would imagine carriers will provide notice too, but
Yes.
if it's coming from the fire department, it might be more impactful and not just look like an advertisement.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And I know that commercial alarm companies have already started notifying customers who've got 3G for, you
Okay.
know, security alarms and
Sure,
things of that
sure,
nature.
yep.
And this will impact older model cell
Sure.
phones and smartphones, so people should check their, and some old computers that had 3G service in it, should check their equipment to make sure they're not gonna lose.
My flip phone won't work anymore.
Your flip phone might not work. You'll need to get new burners. Okay, great, thank you very much.
Okay.
Next up is issues and correspondence. Patrick, you're the farthest away, I will start with you.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. I guess just a couple of things here. A reminder, again, applications for the free holiday store are now available at the Youth and Family Library for families in need. Gift cards, purse project, and wrapping paper are also drives are also occurring. And then I'll also just remind people at this time of year that it's super important that we support Westborough Food Pantry as well as the little free food pantry. During holiday season, it's especially hard for those that have less to get what they need. So please make an effort if you can to support those entities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ian?
Yes, I guess I actually want to pass along a thank you to especially our police department and the school department for a successful turkey trot this weekend. There's close to 1,000 runners that took place, including myself, which was more of a run and walk. But it was a great event, a little cold in the morning, but it was a safe event. I apologize to residents that may have been detoured or delayed, but it really was a great job and a work by the fire department by the police department to ensure safety. They did close down streets to make sure that runners and walkers could be safe. But it was, as always, a fun event with residents out cheering people on and signs along the route. So just, again, thank you for that. That's it.
Okay, Shelby?
Jen already spoke to the holiday stroll at 2 p.m. on Sunday, but I'll just, for folks that have tuned in late, it's Sunday, November 28th. Come out and support our businesses because they've, as Jen said, there are over 40 who have said we'll open our doors and we'll offer something of interest to you. So let's get out and support them and check it out. And the parade at 6 p.m. followed by the downtown lighting. So thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I know there's a number of stops and they're all over town. Is
Yep.
it people driving or is there bus transportation?
Both.
Okay.
Yes.
So you can drive, but there will be buses that will
I
drop
believe
people
the
off.
bus starts at Town Hall at
Yeah.
2 o'clock and has like a 20-minute, 30-minute loop.
Yeah,
There-
there's multiple snowflake stops, I think they're called.
Right.
Yes.
And there is a PDF on the website. You got to kind of hand to expand it, so.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Very exciting.
Okay, Sean?
Nothing, just happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Okay, and for myself, Sean stole my thunder. So, but I also wanted to thank, since it happened since our last meeting, thank everyone involved in both the Veterans Day celebration as well as the dedication of the Blue Star Memorial. And thank Shelby for her work, liaisoning with that and bringing that to fruition. If you haven't had an opportunity to stop by in front of the Forbes Building downtown, check it out. I believe it's a nice addition to the community. And I will say that in the past several weeks, I've just noticed people driving on West Main Street who stop and get out of their car, look at the Blue Star Memorial and look at the war memorials as well. And so that's what they're there for, and so that's good to see. On that note, The last item on our agenda is to enter into executive session to conduct strategy sessions with respect to collective bargaining, et cetera, et cetera. I will let Ian make the motion.
Yeah. I'll move to enter into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A2 and 21A3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining and litigation.
Okay, I declare that an open meeting would have a detrimental effect to the board's bargaining and litigation positions. We will not be returning to open session following the executive session. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Okay, then roll call vote. Patrick?
Welch, yes.
Ian?
Johnson, yes.
Marshall, yes.
Keough, yes.
Edinburgh, yes. By a vote of 5-0, we are in adjournment to executive session. Thank you, Westborough TV, for the coverage and everyone else involved in the logistics of the hybrid meeting tonight. Appreciate it very much.